13 years ago, a technology was born. A technology that has the power to create banks, replace governments, and change the internet as we know it today. Many of you have probably heard of cryptocurrencies, but how many of you actually know how they work? By show of hands? Okay, yeah, about more than I thought. So, cryptocurrencies are based on something called blockchain technology. And at the start of the year, I personally had no idea what that was, how it worked, or why it mattered. Many of you have probably been in the same boat, having heard of cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, and NFTs, and seeing all the hype around them, but really not knowing what it's all about. Well, after doing countless hours of research, I may have gotten a glimpse into the world of blockchain technology and how it's changing the world. I'm Caelan Redekopp. Let's begin. So today I'm going to be covering Bitcoin, blockchains, digital keys and wallets, mining exchanges, smart contracts, Ethereum, NFTs, decentralized finance, and Web 3.0. That might seem like a lot, and I assure you it is. But it's not as complicated as it might seem at first glance. Start at the beginning. Bitcoin is a digital currency that was developed in 2009. It was created by an anonymous figure named Satoshi Nakamoto, and to this day we don't actually know the identity of Satoshi Nakamoto. Over the years, a few people have linked themselves or have been linked to Satoshi, but they were all disproven in the end. Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency created to solve problems with the traditional financial system, like the fees involved with using banks and lack of control and trust. Bitcoin acts like traditional money in that it's both used as a measure of value and as a way for people to store and spend wealth. And the price of Bitcoin is determined by how much people are willing to pay for it, much like other commodities like oil and gold. Bitcoin does not set its own value. Now, Bitcoin is built on blockchain technology. A blockchain is a network of computers that stores data. In the case of Bitcoin, it stores cryptocurrency transactions. When you request a transaction to the network, it gets put into a small list called a block, which is then verified through a process called mining. The block is then added to a chain of previous blocks to keep records, hence the term blockchain. At this point, your transaction is then complete. The mining process results in a small fee, but I'll talk about this more later. Now, this system is very, very difficult to hack. You could think of the blocks on a blockchain like layers of amber around a mosquito. As you add more, it gets harder and harder to break through. So in order for the system to work, we need a way to verify identity. The solution Bitcoin uses is to create randomly generated keys. There are two types of keys, private and public. Private keys allow you to sign transactions. Think of them like a password that allows you to send letters in the mail. Public keys allow you to receive transactions, and continuing with the mail analogy, they are similar to postal addresses. No, a public key is generated based off of a private key, and together they form what's known as an address, a digital identity on the blockchain. Now, as you can see, they're both very long and random, so we need somewhere to put them. Now, there are a few ways to do this. The most simple and secure would be putting it down on a piece of paper and storing it somewhere safe. However, this is incredibly inconvenient. You would have to, you'd have to copy that down from the piece of paper onto your computer every time you want to send a transaction. That is incredibly inconvenient. So the solution most people use are either a hardware or a software wallet. A hardware wallet is a piece of hardware that stores your keys. They're secure because they're not connected to the internet, which is why they're sometimes called cold storage, cold meaning not connected to the internet. The other option is a software wallet. Software wallets do the same thing as hardware wallets, but with slightly less security, instead offering more convenience because they're secure because if your phone or computer gets hacked into, then they can steal your crypto. Look at that! We've made it through 3 points! Time really does fly when you're having fun. Let's continue. Yeah. So earlier I spoke about mining as the process of verifying cryptocurrency transactions. And this process works using a bunch of complicated math stuff that I'm not going to get into right now. But all you need to know is that people compete to verify blocks, and those who do get paid in Bitcoin. You can do this using computers or specialized devices called ASIC miners. The more computing power, the higher chance a miner has of verifying a block. One way to mine is to join something called a mining pool, which is a group of computers that share their computing power, resulting in a higher chance of mining a block, but also lower profits because the profits are shared between the entire pool based on how much power they contribute. The other option is to solo mine, resulting in much higher profits, but incredibly low chance of mining a block. Like, this is essentially trying to win the lottery. Now, in order to prevent an infinite amount of Bitcoin from existing, the new Bitcoin minted is cut in half every 4 years. This is called halving, and prevents inflation. This means that eventually, the new Bitcoin generated from mining will become so low that the only the reward is from the fees from transactions. Now, you've probably heard about how Bitcoin mining is really bad for the environment. And this is true, because when people are going to lengths like this to mine Bitcoin, the power usage is astronomical. Currently, the power use of all computers on the Bitcoin network is estimated to generate between 22 and 23 million tons of carbon dioxide a year. That would mean that if Bitcoin was a country, it would rank between Jordan and Sri Lanka in terms of carbon dioxide use. It's crazy. Now, you might be wondering, how do you actually get Bitcoin? You can do this in a few ways. Either you mine it or you buy it. Now, we've already talked about the first option, so let's explore the second. In the early days of Bitcoin, if you wanted to buy some, you'd have to connect with someone who already did. You would then talk with them and agree on a price. Then, once this is done, you would send them money, they would transfer you the Bitcoin. These days, the process is much simpler. You can simply go to an exchange and buy crypto for a predetermined price. Another option is to use a decentralized exchange to buy crypto with another. Now, decentralized exchanges are not controlled by a company. They're instead run on the blockchain on something called a smart contract. A smart contract is a piece of code on the blockchain. Once created, they're stored on the blockchain, making them unchangeable. They're commonly used to facilitate agreements between people. A simple example would be a vending machine. Put money in, give them something. This is an agreement between the purchaser and the vendor and does not require either to trust each other. Now, smart contracts have uses in finance, real estate, healthcare, and employment, just to name a few. Now, smart contracts are not possible on blockchains like Bitcoin, but they are on others, like Ethereum. Ethereum is a blockchain built around smart contracts. It was launched in 2015 by programmer Vitalik Buterin and a team of developers. By the way, Vitalik was 19 when he came up with the idea for Ethereum. So the blockchain launched along with its native currency, Ether. Ether is the second largest cryptocurrency below Bitcoin. Ethereum's smart contract functionality allows for the creation of cryptocurrencies, exchanges, decentralized applications, and NFTs, among others. It is often referred to as a blockchain with no features. It is meant as a generic architecture anyone can build upon. It is essentially like a coding language. Let's just pause for a moment. Let all that information sink in. Take a look at that. Does anyone actually know what that's from? Show of hands. Do you know what these are? Well, yeah, they're NFTs. For those of you who didn't know, these are NFTs. NFT is an acronym that stands for non-fungible token, meaning a token that's not interchangeable. This is the wild world of NFT art. It's been talked about a lot in the media, and you might have heard of celebrities like Justin Bieber, Ellen DeGeneres, and Eminem having created their own NFTs. Now, owning an NFT is not like owning a painting, like many people would like to think. Instead, it is like owning the receipt to a painting. You can prove you own it, but the painting itself is displayed in the public domain. Now, NFTs are similar to cryptocurrencies in that they're represented by tokens, but are different in that they're all individual. NFTs are important because they're unique and traceable, unlike digital currencies, which aren't. This means that NFTs can be used to prove ownership of things, digital and physical. For instance, if you want to prove you own a property, you might have to get that notarized. But with NFT technology, you could have an NFT that is linked to the house and is transferred between owners as property ownership changes. That would give you a permanent record of house ownership. Now, because of this, NFTs can also be used in video games, with tokenized in-game items allowing for seamless transfers between games or users. A great example is the popular crypto game Axie Infinity. In this game, you collect pets called Axies, and which are represented by NFTs, which means they have real-world value because you can sell them. Now, Axie Infinity is a massive in-game economy. They've got $100 million of their coin traded every 24 hours, which is crazy. Now, NFTs also have uses in metaverses, because NFTs can be used to represent metaverse items and properties. This is part of the reason that NFTs were talked about so much after Mark Zuckerberg announced the launch of Meta's metaverse back in 2021. So the next thing I want to talk about is this idea of decentralized finance. This is a collective term for financial products that are accessible and are not controlled by governments or third parties. Decentralized finance is widely considered to have been started by Bitcoin, but has now evolved to include things like trading platforms, loan services, online marketplaces, and even blockchain-based gambling. This is all made possible by blockchain technology. Now, the aim of decentralized finance is to make financial products more accessible and to offer opportunities that traditional financial products don't. I personally am really excited about this because it lets literally anyone can get involved. Like, I can do that, whereas with traditional finance, it's a lot harder. Now, decentralized finance also supports a new online economy called Web3. In 1991, the internet was created. It was called the World Wide Web, and it changed the way people interacted with each other. That era, from its creation until around 2004, is now known as Web 1.0. At this time, most users were consumers of content, because in order to create it, you needed an in-depth knowledge of coding languages. And around 2004, the internet became seen as a platform, with the creation of social media and online forums sparking a more user-centric ecosystem. This era, known as Web 2.0, continues today, with companies like Google, Amazon, Microsoft controlling a huge portion of internet traffic. Now, the term Web 3.0 was coined by Ethereum co-founder Gavin Wood in 2014 and began to gain popularity in 2021, with people in the crypto space discussing the possibility of a decentralized internet. Now, there are many different ideas of what a decentralized internet would look like, but most concepts use blockchain technologies to create online identities, assets, and platforms. Now, a key principle of Web3 is decentralizing services in order to prevent censorship and the control of important information by single authorities. Now, this also results in more even wealth distribution, because the money that would be given to corporations for running platforms is instead distributed among the contributors. For example, with YouTube, creators make money from advertisements on videos, but a portion of that money goes to YouTube for running the service. In a decentralized ecosystem, the money would go straight to the creators. Now, there are some limitations to decentralized systems, such as accessibility, education, and user experience. Although some decentralized services are available at no cost, transactions on blockchains like Ethereum are way too expensive and are a barrier to many people, especially in developing countries. Another problem is that there is currently a technical barrier to entry that is too high. Users need experience to use blockchain-based services, and education around blockchain technology is not as widespread as it needs to be for widespread adoption to take place. Another barrier is the fact that most decentralized platforms are not truly independent, with many fields being dominated by a few companies and products. So as you can see, this is not a perfect system. However, if these limitations can be overcome, I think blockchain has a lot of potential for the future. I've only touched on a few concepts here, but if you found anything even mildly interesting, I'd encourage you to learn more about it. There are some really great resources on YouTube. If you want to go even deeper, you can get a crypto wallet and buy crypto, although I'd encourage you to do your research before purchasing anything. Don't sue me. Now, understanding new technologies is hard, but I hope I've been able to give you just a little bit of insight into this one. So if this technology does go mainstream, you'll be more prepared. But who knows, maybe it will just flop on its face and die. I'd like to say thanks to my internal advisor, Carrie Marintet, for helping me so much and for giving up so much of her personal time to keep me on track, as on track as I can be. I really appreciate it. Thank you to my external advisors, Yannick Fung and Chris Kruger, for giving up their time to help me. Your insights have been truly invaluable. Also, can I just get a hand of applause for everyone's advisors? Like, seriously? I'd also like to thank my parents for being so supportive and for helping me write my paper and this presentation and for pretending to understand this topic. Thank you to my siblings for being supportive sometimes, and I'm sorry for taking up so much airspace at the dinner table. I promise I'll stop, maybe. And no, don't applaud for my siblings. Who does need applause? Jen Hendrickson. Literally, she ran the Masterworks program. She kept our class organized and on track, provided so much valuable feedback. It kept us sane this year. So thank you so much, Jen.
For those of us that are stuck in Web 1.0, that was honestly an incredible window into the future. And through reading your paper and your presentation, I learned so much and actually think I understand a whole lot more than I did before. So thank you to you. That was amazing. We are going to go to questions now, and we're going to start first with your lovely advisor, Ms. Marintet.
Excellent job, Mr. Redekopp. I learned so much with you along, I still don't understand as much as you do, but learned so much along this process, and I'm so proud. You should be so proud of yourself for how much you've accomplished. As you mentioned in your conclusion, one of the greatest ways to learn is just to sort of experiment with buying crypto, and I know you did that at the beginning of your project. So can you kind of walk us through maybe what you started with and how it turned out, or what you learned along that journey?
Yeah, so I was originally planning to have my project be investing, and that turned into crypto, and that turned into blockchain, and I went away from the investing side of it, but early on I did invest in like a small amount of crypto, and that was before there's been crashes recently, so it's not worth it. I lost most of my money, but I think overall it was a valuable experience, because you can't learn if you don't try, and yeah.
Great, thank you.
Question. Do you think you might see yourself doing something in blockchain in the future, or do you think there might be areas or careers that blockchain might affect from your research?
I think that if this does go mainstream, does become bigger, it could affect so many careers, it would replace a lot of them, it would create a lot of jobs, and I could totally see myself getting into this as a potential career in the future.
Nice. Glad to hear it.
Any questions from family right now, or do you want to wait? Come on, Rihanna. It's a big goal. I'm going to ask you a question. So when I read your paper, and it took me quite a while to get through it, but I was really intrigued with the halving of Bitcoin worth because of inflation. And we talked about the mining of it, and I assume that when the date is set for the value to go in half, right?
Yeah.
So wouldn't everyone be wanting to mine it just before that date comes, and what does that do?
Yeah, so obviously it's more profitable to mine the earlier you go. Like, I think the next date is 2024. Like sometime around July 2024 is it's gonna half. So the reward you get for mining Bitcoin is cut in half. And the idea of that is to prevent inflation, because the less of, like, just economics, but the less of something there is, the more it's worth. And if mining continued to produce the same amount, there would be a huge supply of it, and it would overwhelm the market and Bitcoin would crash.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
And this is what sort of blew me away, going into this without knowing anything. What mining was. In my head, I thought digging a hole to get the coin. It's not like that at all, and I was so intrigued by what it actually is. Can you give us a succinct version of what mining looks like for Bitcoin?
Okay, so basically your computers, if you're mining Bitcoin, you've got a program that is churning through numbers. You're basically trying to find, like, it gets really complicated, but what your computer is just running through numbers really quickly in hopes of finding one that'll work, and that's how you get the reward. And it's super competitive. There's like so many miners, like obviously, yeah. That's why
you have to mine.
You need to have, you can use, like, I could mine on my laptop. I actually tried that once. It doesn't work very well because my computer is kind of, it's not a brick, but it's not, like, yeah. So if you need, there's like I said, the two main ways are with like a computer, you need good graphics card, because graphics cards are good at churning through numbers really quickly. And then there's also specialized devices called ASIC miners, which are dedicated. They don't do anything else except for mine crypto. And yeah, basically the more processing power, you want more processing power when you're mining.
Awesome. Mr. Harrison.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Redekopp, that was so inspiring. I'm really inspired by your brain. One of the things I just pulled from your talk is that if cryptocurrency is decentralizing the whole process and kind of democratizing how money is being transferred, isn't this a real threat to the banking system? And are the banks, like the crash that just happened, are the banks willfully trying to destroy cryptocurrency?
I'm not sure about banks. Yes?
Yeah. Yes. It's a mess. It's a hard battle.
Yeah, because like obviously crypto means that banks are not going to be, like, no one has a reason to use a bank anymore, so banks don't want that. So I think, yeah, either they fight against it or they try to join it, and I think fighting against it is probably easier. Potentially, yeah. So like something that we could see maybe is banks adding support for crypto, and in order to not die out. Yeah.
Liz, if you could speak loudly, that'd be great. The mic's right here.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Redekopp. For someone who still uses their fingers to count, you really opened up an awareness for me. My question is, I'm intrigued by NFTs with artists making product. What is the process? I understand that you're buying a piece of art and it's, you said, getting a receipt and that the art is public. But what is really the process of the artists selling their piece of artwork as an NFT?
And NFTs are like crypto, where anyone can set a price for it. It's however much the artist wants to sell it for. It's like, you could consider it like a painting. Like the artist is like, this painting is selling for like $1,000. Who wants to buy it? And there are platforms for buying NFTs. OpenSea is the biggest one. I know there's some other ones. And basically, you will go to that website. You can upload your NFT or like create one on that website, and then that will have auctioning or just like selling it. And yeah, basically anyone can create an NFT. OpenSea actually lets you do it for free, but they take a fee from selling it.
And so then the person that buys that NFT, they say, I own the rights or the ownership, but I don't actually own the product.
Yeah, I think sometimes it gets really weird with copyright, but most NFTs you don't own the copyright to it, but you own, like, yeah, it's kind of like if you imagine having like a limited edition painting or something, like you don't own the rights to that, like it's still owned by the artist, but like you own, yeah.
Thank you.
Kind of, okay, you can kind of compare it to like, you know, you can like buy parts of the moon and stuff. It's kind of like that.
you all for letting me to the front of the line. I'm a member of the public and very much appreciated your presentation, Mr. Redekopp.
Thank you.
My name is Rod Marsh, and I'm just part of the Bowen community. But I've been studying blockchain just like you have, probably for about the same amount of time. And one of the things that's really got to my mind is about how blockchain can be used in our local community. And I'm really interested to know if you have ideas about how blockchain might actually be implemented somehow to help us improve our communication together or exchange of value in our community, that kind of thing.
Huh. Yeah, I'm really bad at answering really open questions. But
It is a big question.
open-ended. Yeah, so I think like in general, using like cryptocurrency to transfer money between people, like if you're, it's obviously like what it was originally created for, and that's a huge application for that. Just like, yeah, in general, you can use like smart contracts to like automate systems that you want to like, I don't know, like the Bowen buy and sell could be run on blockchain,
Right?
which is, yeah.
Okay.
Not sure how else to answer that.
Good. Well, that's a great answer. Thank you very much, and thanks for your presentation.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, I just remembered. There's this thing called the Helium Network, and basically, these like the goal is just telecommunication. The goal is just to provide reception to as many areas as possible. So you set up a node, and basically broadcast. You get paid for setting up the node, and it like on Bowen, where there's like obviously a lot, like even here, there's very bad cell reception. So if we have like nodes all around, they could provide coverage for the island and play like TELUS and stuff wouldn't. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
You guys make money.
Fantastic presentation, Mr. Redekopp. Since I've been limited to only one question, I would like to ask you, crypto is, because it's decentralized, it's really hard to track payments through it, which has led to it becoming pretty much the payment or currency of choice for crime. So how do you think that has influenced it? Is it good or bad for crypto?
I think that it's like it's neither. It's obviously like it doesn't reflect great on the public perception of it, but I think any tool has the power to be used for good and bad, and probably the pros outweigh the cons with that. Like, I mean, people have found ways of transferring money anonymously anyways. Like, I don't know. Yeah.
Most of it is fiat. Most criminal money is fiat money still.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you talked about this in your presentation or if I just missed it, but I was just wondering how much money like you actually would make if you found that number and how often it resets, like how often a new block is made.
Okay, so at the moment, I think Bitcoin crashed, but it's like somewhere around $200,000 or
20,000 Bitcoin.
one Bitcoin. But how much like miner reward?
I think it's 2.5 Bitcoin per miner reward at the moment.
Oh, okay. So it's
But that's every block.
yeah. So if you mine a block, you get about at the moment like 70K, 70.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. When Bitcoin was at a high, it would be higher, and yeah. Oh, and in 2024, every 4 years, it gets cut in half. So it'll be like 1.75.
Like how many, like when like a new block is made, like
10 minutes. Yeah, the difficulty updates every 10 minutes. It's complicated, but yeah, 10 minutes.
Great job, Mr. Redekopp. I was wondering if you think that like more stable sources of cryptocurrency could be brought into our daily lives. Like I know like Bitcoin's national currency for some countries. Do you think that would like happen? Or do you think it'll like stay away?
I think probably not Bitcoin. Bitcoin's not, because right now Bitcoin transactions are expensive and Bitcoin's extremely volatile, like big crashes and stuff happens all the time. Probably, so I didn't talk about this in my presentation, but I talked about it in my paper. There's this stable coins, this idea of stable coins, which are coins that don't change value. So they're like, they do this through a whole bunch of different methods, but yeah, they will stay at the same value, and that could definitely be adopted by countries. Yeah.
What El Salvador?
Oh yeah, it's El Salvador and the Central African Republic now.
What are they using?
Bitcoin. Yeah.
Very good job, Mr. Redekopp. My question is, I'm pretty sure I missed it, but what's the point of having a Bitcoin?
So it's it's like, what is the point of having a dollar? It's the way like a means of exchanging value. You could also use it as an investment, like buy Bitcoin, it goes up, you sell, you make money. Yeah.
Vladislav, can I suggest that you watch Rosie Hancock's of last year? Her Masterworks was all about what is currency.
Wonderful presentation, Mr. Redekopp. I was wondering if cryptocurrency's use became more widespread, could that have negative effects on communities that don't have access to technology?
Yes. Like, for instance, in very like remote communities, if you don't have Wi-Fi and stuff, then that could definitely be an issue. But yeah.
It's usually less though. There's most adoptions in third world countries at the moment.
Yeah.
Awesome presentation, Mr. Redekopp. I was wondering if like mining Bitcoin is like a reliable like thing. Like you said, it's like an investment to have Bitcoin and stuff. But is it like, can you get revenue from like mining Bitcoin if you have like the proper stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. There's many people have made like their jobs are just mining Bitcoin. Like, obviously it becomes less and less profitable, but it can still be profitable if you're in an area with low energy costs. Because that's the biggest thing, is if you have energy costs a lot, then it offsets the cost, and then yeah.
Great job, Mr. Redekopp. I just want to know, what is the point of buying an NFT or like owning the NFT or whatever?
Okay, so there kind of is no point. Like NFT, the way I see it, NFT art is kind of just like, it's kind of like a trend or whatever. Like, it's not, yeah, the main argument for it is being able to support artists you like and stuff. And obviously there's communities around NFT stuff, but at the moment, the way NFTs are being used right now is not probably the way they could be used, more efficient or whatever. Like, yeah, like obviously if you want an NFT of like to prove ownership of something, then that's a perfectly good reason. But like, yeah, NFT art is kind of weird.
Amazing presentation, Mr. Redekopp. I know that you said that you invested in like some cryptocurrencies, right? And I was just wondering what were like the couple of ones that you did invest in, and then a follow-up question is which would be like a cryptocurrency that you would suggest to invest in for like people who don't have much knowledge of it.
Okay, so just right off the bat, I'm like these suggestions, obviously do your research. Like, don't just, after this, don't just go set up an account with an exchange and buy, like, bad idea. Like, do your research, find, like, I would recommend, the best thing to do is just find a product, like a project that you like, and like look into it and be like, I want to support this, so no matter if I lose money, I'm happy with investing in this. At the start of it was mainly Bitcoin and Ethereum, which are the two top ones. There was some other one, like a whole bunch of like DeFi tokens, stuff like that. And yeah, obviously just like, if you're new, probably like top 10 coins are the best investment, or safest, but yeah, do your research.
And ask your mom and dad.
Yes. Yeah, one thing to say is that you can't actually sign up for an exchange if you're under 18.
Is www.worldwideweb?
That, yes.
And also, if you actually create your own NFT, what would you like choose, like on the picture or whatever?
Oh, that's a really. Oh, I did make an NFT. Caelan. I got his. I made an NFT of Caelan. It's currently. It was. I put. Nobody bought it, obviously, but it was on sale for $20 in April. Yeah. I was just testing it out. But yeah. Good question.
My question is, are all of the, like each of the blocks, are all of them worth the same amount of money, or are like different combinations worth different amounts?
Yeah, so if you're talking about mining a block, yeah, mining a block will always be worth the same amount for that, but then once the halving happens, it becomes less. But yeah, it's always the same amount.
Great job, Mr. Redekopp. I was wondering, like, once you have Bitcoin, like, what can it be used to pay for?
So there's actually like, it's becoming more and more prevalent. There's websites that take payments in crypto. There's, there's a whole bunch of different services you can pay for with Bitcoin. You can also just use it, like, let's say you've got a friend across the world and you want to give them money, like, Bitcoin would be a good option for that. Because instead of like transferring it across the world, which takes a lot of, like, there's pretty big fees if you're doing that through a bank, I think. And like, yeah, with Bitcoin, that's a good option.
Mr. Redekopp, that was a fascinating presentation. When I saw it on the docket, I went, oh no. I'm not going to understand this, and it's going to be really boring. And I was completely wrong. That was hilarious, super well spoken, and totally fascinating. Just well done.